Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel, The Daily Tea. I'm your host, Daily. This is my second video. Please like, comment, subscribe, let me know what I'm doing right or wrong. Any kind of feedback, yeah, let me know. Anyway, so today I want to talk about, well, a lot of things, but mainly the topic is going to be kind of the gender versus biology of transgenderism. This is kind of providing an argument against Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles, some of the things that they've said and that I've kind of noticed just in the argument that maybe other people kind of missed. So let's dive right in. All right, so gender versus biology. So one of the big things that I kind of notice in a lot of the arguments presented by the anti-trans side of things and opinions is that gender and biology are kind of talked about synonymously. Like they're not the same thing. There's overlap, there's definitely plenty of congruency between the two, but sometimes there's incongruency, and hence why we have transgender people as well as non-binary, if for those that don't necessarily consider themselves in the transgender category. Anyways, so I guess to kind of like start covering a little bit of that, actually before I get too far into it, so let's cover biology. All right. Well, gender, for starters, is the psychological relationship to one's biology, whereas the biology is like the actual sex characteristics that a person's born with. So while, sure, with science and medicine today, like we can't necessarily take a biologically born male and 100% make them a biological, like, can have kids performing female, and vice versa. It's like we can't necessarily do all the aspects and fullness of a female to a male. We're not there yet, but never say never. And to be honest, for all intents and purposes, we can certainly create something that looks, walks, and talks the part. So you won't know, and sorry if that upsets some of you, yeah, non-trans folk. Anyways, so let's explore some of the history of gender and gender play a little bit, because I feel like there's definitely the conversation of how this is all like newfangled ideologies and whatnot that have only existed for like the last 50, 60 years now. Actually, it goes a lot further back than that. As far as some of the terminologies that we understand and hear today, sure, that's only lasted probably about the last 100 years or so, kind of starting with the term, and forgive me for sensitivities, please don't take offense, these are just terminologies that I'm mentioning here. So transvestite was kind of one of the first terminologies that was coined by a man named Hirschfeld. Anyways, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who kind of came up with that term, and was also one of the first few people to pilot cross-gender surgeries and procedures that kind of paved the way for where we are with that today. There's other people that are responsible for that too. And then, the term transvestite eventually transitioned into the word transsexual, which was in like 1949, and essentially, this was a kind of a warmer period. There had definitely been a lot more surfacing of people that were looking for cross-gender surgeries. And yeah, then you have 1971. I didn't know that this word had actually existed this long, but this is when the term transgender actually came out. kind of idealizing that it wasn't just a sexual preference, but actually a disassociation with one's gender, the dysphoria that us individuals are experiencing. So there was a lot more conversation around this topic. And then, of course, a more recent kind of shorthand term, if you will, it's actually British. Who would have known? 1996, the word trans actually kind of entered the scene and started being used more frequently. And that's kind of, I feel like, where we're at today. Though I feel like a lot of us 90s kids and like millennial generation and older are still kind of stuck in like 1949 with transsexual and even transvestite. So you probably will hear the load of them if you're going through the experience. To be honest, though, the word androgyny, kind of representing both sex characteristics, very effeminate features, and such things, actually originated in like the mid 1500s. I believe Greek. But anyways, there are plenty of other examples and terminologies from other cultures around the world that have existed for hundreds of years, if not a millennia. Like you have the Hijra of Hindu culture, and that's definitely an older world religion, though it's not as expansive as it once formerly was. Like it's still been around a long time. They've actually celebrated that cross-gender experience and recognized it to be kind of a rare and special thing. You also have the Fa'afafafin, I'm probably saying that horribly, Polynesian culture basically. Again, forgive, maybe some sensitivities and references here. I'm just kind of bringing up terms that different cultures use or you hear in reference. You got the Lady and Tom boys of Thailand and Vietnam, the Takatapui of New Zealand, that essentially another culture where it's celebrated kind of in that like indigenous two-spirited type of vibe. But you even have like Greek and Roman culture with what we call mythology nowadays, that these were once very strongly held belief systems of early Greece and Rome and kind of everything going on around the Mediterranean in that time period. Good examples of this are like Zeus and plenty of gender play. Norse mythology. You have Loki, who plenty of times dabbled in gender play, gender bending, and kind of tricking even some cross-species stuff. You also have Zeus that did the same thing. Not only did he gender bend, but he definitely interspecies bended and, would go and just play all kinds of practical jokes. You definitely have a lot more references in mythology to a variety of different, like masculine, feminine. I believe Artemis turned a man into a woman for seeing her bathe. So just saying, like transgender and gender play has not been outside of the human imagination for millennia. We're just now finally getting to a place with science and medicine to actually start approaching more of the medical and operable sides of things and actually bringing congruency of the body to the mind. Surgeries have been happening pretty much since the beginning of the 1900s. The first operation successfully, questionable on the successfully part, but 1926 was a mastectomy that was performed on a trans man by Dr. Felix Abraham. And this person actually performed several surgeries on both men and women trying to transition, and actually like really set the stage for a lot of where we are, between him and several other doctors. There was a penectomy in 1930, and then the first vaginoplasty in 1931 with a famous painter at the time, Lily Ilby. Again, if somebody's more of a history buff, maybe I'm pronouncing that right. Maybe I'm not. All kinds of stuff. And now we're, you come around like the 1960s and it kind of started entering the medical textbook, with the transsexual phenomenon. Yeah, so, and that's just representing the gender aspects and some of the historical references. But I hear one other part of the argument that I actually want to address because I haven't heard anybody actually say it yet. So, Michael Knowles, I believe, is the one who made a statement that essentially was there's no other representations in nature where biology, and animals have transgenderism. Okay, I'm going to split this into two parts because we are a different level of sentience than other species of things. So the concepts of gender are all up here, and social constructs. It's how we identify. Other animal kingdom, yeah. So homosexuality is not uncommon in the animal kingdom. You see it with dogs, cats, all manner of beast. Actually, it's not uncommon. Um, it's more of a primal thing, dominance, whatever you want to call it. So there's that part. And let's talk about biology. All right, like you have three genders that exist in human biology. You have male, female, and intersex. And yes, intersex, while rare, still exists. Both genders. From a chromosomal standpoint, you have people that are XX, XY, you're atypical, but you also have X chromosome, just single chromosome. And you have people that have triple chromosomes, like genetically, chromosomally at birth. So people that want to argue the scientific, like, oh, there's just XXXY. Clearly, you don't read, you don't study up. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist, but this information is available, and I've found it, I've compiled it into what I'm providing for you. You can look this stuff up. Nature, all right? So other representations in nature where biology of sex varies from outside of the male-female norm. Like birds have 12 plus chromosomal makeups. Same thing with lizards. Like there's just so many different chromosomal variations. Plants, hermaphrodite. Oh, by the way, that ties back to Greece and Greek mythology with Hermaphroditus. Yeah, that's the thing. Changed from like a man to a woman. So yeah, that happens with plants all the time. And they still are a living thing. It's an evolutionary trait. So while we haven't, well, this is funny, recently read about how the male human chromosome is evolving. It's actually, so that XY is starting to drop off. And this has happened in some species of rats that have evolved past the XY chromosomal makeup of a genetic male. You have parthenogenesis in mice where female mice are giving birth without a male sperm. And that happens in several species of nature. To be honest with you, can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but still, it exists. It's not outside of reality. And sure, we're not there yet as a species, but who's to say, a couple hundred years couldn't change some things. And this is just where we are now. We have science and we have medicine and we have these things that we can artificially create enough of an semblance to create the congruency of gender to our biology. I think that's one of the beautiful things about the experience of being human, is that we get to choose, unlike any other living thing, what experience that we want to have. It's not just black and white, like this is how you're born and this is what you will always be. Like, our reality is a little more subjective to the experience that we want and do create. So just want to say, another fun little reference that came to mind, kind of on that Parthenogenesis. So the Bible, for all you religious folk, I'm gonna make you mad with this one, but I don't care. I grew up in this stuff. So, Mother Mary gave birth supposedly without male sperm to Jesus. So from a biological standpoint, this person possessed enough of both traits, male and female, to create a baby all of her own. You can say it's the hand of God, but who's to say that the hand of God didn't bless Mary with enough of both traits? They didn't have science back then like we do now. So to be honest, you can't write it off, and we can't prove it either. Thought I'd just leave you with that one. But hey, again, hopefully this was fun, helpful in some ways. Yeah, definitely. Comment, like, subscribe, be angry with me, whatever. We'll do this again. Till next time.